Armour there in the middle of the pack, maybe. I'm seeing Hans there. One of the technical drivers is just saying that one of the drivers is missing a glove. I can see from the back of the field, and that is coming from the, I think the 5th row of the grid there. Is it Alessio Lamattina who is missing one of his gloves out there, which is, I think, going to put a delay on this. Of course, regulators, they have to have all of their safety gear on board. And I think, yes, there's a little bit of toing and froing now. And I think someone right now in the either Kart Republic camp is running at the speed of light right now to deliver a glove to Alessio Lamattina here. And there he is on your screen. Well, the right hand's got one. His left hand does not have one. Of course, it's a very easy mistake to make. You know, you put your gloves in your helmet. You think you got both of them. You walk out with your helmet on. It might fall out. But that's something I've not seen in a long time here, Nicole. No, absolutely not. It's one of those things, happens to the best of us, and with that concentration out there for these drivers, it's just going to be the case that he's dropped it or left it somewhere. I'm sure, though, it will not break his concentration or his focus on the task that will shortly be in hand. A big task on every single hand in this field. 36 drivers in total. Has that glove arrived? You can hear the cheering, and I have heard it as well, that there is someone going. There it is. The missing glove for Alessio Lamattina has been found. Mechanic looks tired. Yes, good job there to his mechanic, but don't catch your breath too quick because you've now got to start the kart. So here we go. Countdown comes down. Green light is on, and they will send the drivers now for their 2 formation laps for this race when they get it squared away. And it's all down now. KZ2 Masters here, Nicole, is moments away from starting, but I say moments away from starting. 2 formation laps at this pace. We might still be waiting to start in about 5 or so minutes' time. I'll tell you what, good job, that man. Good job, that man. That's a long run to go and find that glove and then to start it up. You can forgive him for not wanting to sprint to the mechanic stand straight after that. Yeah, somebody give him a bottle of water, because that was a task and a half. You know, he's had to run up a hill to get back to that awning, so and then push the cart to get going. Yeah, exactly. And of course, it can only be that one man. Yes, someone might have been able to grab it and throw it over a fence or something like this, or they can't really do that. But yeah, they have to go all of it officially. And that must have been a massive pain. Right there is Pasquale Lupoli, FIA race director for this one. He will be under the watchful eye of the officials. However, I do not think he wants to stand there at the end of the race. There is a multitude of pyrotechnics on that gantry there. Don't give it away. No. Of course they know. But right, here we go then. Drivers getting the temperatures dialed up on this one. But this is going to be a bit of a wait here, Nicole. I mean, for what they're doing now, this is a really important phase of their final here. They've got the brand new tyres, of course, on board. They need to take this time to get that sheen off the tyre, the release agent off that tyre. And yeah, for all of the drivers, this is quite an important phase of it. Yeah, absolutely. But it's a phase that they will be so used to by now. Every single driver then within this field, within this weekend, has been watched on by our team in race control, led by none other than your FIA head of race control, Chris Lambret, supported by Joanna Falcao and David Manchester. There they are on your screen. They are the team that have been the watchful hawk eyes down on every single driver in KZ2 Masters, KZ2 and KZ. There, other people who have busy on the sidelines watching on at these drivers. Peter Mika there on the track. He's one of the personnel that is training up to maybe one day be in line to join the likes of Pasquale Lupoli as being a race director. Has been a massive helping hand to our team this weekend. Yeah, under the watchful eyes of Deputy Race Director Nigel Edwards, that's teaching him all the business with his 25 years in FIA race directing karting, then all the years before that as well. There, the banking lined up, showing all the crowds that are here to watch these racing, all the way pretty much around the circuit, here in the paddock as well. As they go through, they are going to be going around again. Of course, it is 2 formation laps, and judging by that reaction there from Gonzalo Plantin, the judge of facts, yes, I think he was like, I really wish it was 1. But no, they're going around for 2 here. a last chance to get any temperature into those tyres, and that's why they're taking it a little bit slow here. They don't want to overdo warming up the tyres or anything like that, but a lot of time to get temperature into the brakes and, of course, those engines.
Yeah, lap 1, releasing that agent, that sealing agent off of the tyre, then lap 2, getting them up to temperature, staying way back from the drivers ahead to give themselves, you know, that good room to do a bit of a short sort of run into the corner, load the kart up and generate some warmth into things. I just can't believe how many people have joined us here this weekend. You know, you'd think you were at a Grand Prix with the amount of people that are surrounded around the circuit. If you're stood at the back of one of those crowds, you can't see a single thing. There's the mechanics grandstand. These are the mechanics of the drivers that are currently on the track. They have probably got prime view out to their prime view of turns 1, 2 and 3. I would love to be stood there in the first couple of laps where it gets incredibly busy into those corners, these drivers barreling dizzyingly high speeds into there.
Certainly couldn't have a microphone in that paddock, though, in that grandstand, though, at the start of a race, because that might be a little bit fruity in the language, but they certainly do their level best work of giving their drivers the best possible outcome in these races. Of course, a lot of work goes into getting these karts ready. It's not just bring it out of the box and away you go. Remember, a chassis needs all the parts putting onto it. These engines are highly complex. Of course, the 6-speed gearbox 125cc, these things are quicker off the line than any production sports car that you could buy off the market. These are incredible machines that can push a driver right to the limit of adhesion around the circuit. We have seen that once or twice earlier. Of course, if you joined us earlier on, we saw that horrendous moment for the Leder brothers, Sebastian and Gregory Leder, who had those drama on the back straight, and we do hope they are okay. Both of them are not in this final, but I'm sure watching on from the sidelines, but we do wish them the best of luck. And as well for Michael Avancino as well, who had a bit of a moment yesterday on that CRG. He has unfortunately had to pull out of the weekend. He will not be in this final either in the KZ2s. Yeah, a bit of a shame for him as well. But we do wish all of those drivers the very best and a speedy recovery, and we hope they see them out on a track very, very soon. Eyes on the front of the grid then. Here we go. Angelo Lombardo and Davide Fore are lined up, ready to go for this race. It is all going to fall down to this very moment here. The pressure has built astronomically over the course of this weekend after time qualifying, the qualifying heats, the super heats, and now the finals. The 70-odd drivers whittled down to just the 36 in this race in the KZ2 Masters class. But like we say, that tension now is palpable. The drivers always say, you know, I'm focused, I'm ready. But you've got to imagine deep down inside, the butterflies loom in the belly of their stomach. But we get the green flag at the back of the grid. The first final is about to go. It's KZ2 Masters. It's lights out, fights on, and it's a lightning start for Lombardo. He continues that trend he's had all weekend. Davide Fore slots into second place. Anthony Abbas there in third as the rest of the field go through in towards that first sector. You can see that Jennifer Cherney's not at the best start on that one. The TK kart's gone backwards as Haublin tries to go through. Drama in the background. That is the Intrepid, possibly. Could be the likes of Darrell Henderson in the 324, but I think he's got going. No, it's the other one. It's Alessandro Cavina in the Intrepid. He's out of the race. The first retirement comes from the middle of the pack, but crucially at the front here, it is Angelo Lombardo in the lead and going purple in sector 1 and 2, understandably, with the clear track in front. Steady breakaway then by your top 5, all led by that Maranello, who once more is in his clean air this weekend. Looks over his shoulder to the Praga of Davide Fore, who was the other driver within qualifying to put it on pole position. Lombardo knows about the pace of Fore. He's unbothered for the time being. So it is Lombardo from Fore, Abbas, Nallon and Casaglio as your top 5, as side by side these drivers barrel into turn number 5, and big overtakes going on in that mid-pack section as we've lost one of the Paralins now off the road. That's the 362 who will tumble down the order. That is Pislaw. That is lost now. Is currently now going to tumble down, was just a moment ago P25. Down once more
into the final couple of corners, still led by Lombardo, who looks slightly defensive. More drivers being caught out, but these drivers at the front, this is going to be the story, lap after lap between these top 5, as again, this time a Tony Kart who will go
like
down.
Flies. Yeah. This is Andre Nicastro, and of course it was Pilsner, Marco Pilsner was one of the other drivers, Daniel Kerry of the Power Competition ASD, he's out of the race, and now more of them going off, and this is just some drivers here who's just not got that run at the front, and unfortunately drama at the back. Eyes on this one though, fighting is still on at the front here, but look at this, Lombardo has not been able to break away from Davide Forte. Both of them now on these fresh set of tyres look much more closer here, but wow, this is early defensive posture here from Angelo Lombardo. He is going to bunch the pack up here nicely as they exit out of that final corner and over the start-finish straight. They go on to lap number 4 of this race, and Lombardo here is in control. But Forte, Abbas, Nallon and Cosaglio are still right there for position. Lombardo again defensive. He might struggle on the exit here. Can Davide Forte get the run up the hill? The answer is no as they enter in towards turns 8, 9 and 10 at the top of the hill. This is the highest part of the circuit. It extends at 5 meters here, and then it starts to descend as they come down now in towards this next couple of corners, in through 10 and 11, now through turns number 12, onto the back straight. Is Forte going to go for something here? He does not want to be sat behind a driver who's taken a defensive posture lap after lap in these early stages of the race. Out of that final corner once again, it's still Lombardo who leads Forte and Anthony Abbas in third.
Question then for you, Anthony. Is this nerves or is this tactics by Lombardo? Is he nervous that maybe he's not able to hold on to this race lead? Or is he being clever? Is he trying to back up the pack behind him, let them trip over each other so that he can then run away from everybody, as now Simonetti is lost. Simonetti, a driver who was momentarily on a charge, now tumbles down the order. Daniel Bray, starting further down, is your fastest driver on the track, but nowhere near this fight at the front.
To answer your question, Nicole, this is very early on into a race situation. He knows that they're all on the same tyres. He knows that Forte is a quick driver. He knows he's won this event before, back in 2023. And again, I think it's just a case of, yes, possibly a tactic. He wants to keep that front group nice and close, because if Lombardo can think that, okay, Anthony Abbas can go for the move on Davide Forte, it might release him as the two go wheel to wheel now. The two Italians side by side up the hill. They bang wheels, but amazingly, Lombardo holds on to that position for the time being. Forte slots back into second, but that is the first real attempt by the Italian there in second place for a chance of this lead.
This is going to be absolutely fiery from start to end, I would say. Anthony Jordan into turn number 14 they go. Still Lombardo on that white defensive line, as in the background, Piccioni, your 2025 European champion, really having to fend off the likes of Christian Haublin shortly behind him. Still, there's nothing in it between these top 5. Only inches split them up. This time, Lombardo doesn't look like he's going to be challenged by Davide Forte, where he was that previous lap ago. It's still going to be him in the front, chasing round in his clean air, leading Forte. Abbas tried to give it a go on Forte when him and Lombardo went wheel to wheel, but he's still settled there in P3, ahead of Nallon, Cosaglio and Medeghini there in P6. Now then, out of the final sector in a moment they will go, and it looks like maybe these two at the front, Lombardo and Forte, could be on a charge to start to break away as we settle down slightly on that previous lap. Stories going on in the back end of your order. We've got Heyer, who is up by 10 positions, and Sousa, who's trying to give it a good go with 12 places gained so far. Abbas said on the grid walk he hasn't been as strong around the circuit as he was last year in 2024 at Portimao, where he snatched away that title. So in this one, I think he's going to be hoping, praying that Forte and Lombardo start to battle it out, to then trip over each other, catch each other out, so that he can then shoot into the front and maybe try and add to his tally and try and get a consecutive win in here.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, it's a very competitive top 10 there, which is kicking off in the background there. Andrea Spagni has just got past Haublin with a move down the inside there at turn number 13. This is that early stage of the racing, the drama unfolding. The drivers at the back of the grid that saw the retirement from Marco Pilzer out of the race. But yes, like we say, first change in that top 10 came from Andrea Spagni, who pushed himself up into P9 now. Haublin on that TB kart has had a drop of 4 places, but is still in that lead group for the time being. That certainly could still be kicking off. Lombardo now has been starting to put in those consistent times here, Nicole. The gap's up to around 0.2 of a second as Ricardo Nallon on the back of Anthony Abbas starting to go for the moves, and the reason being is that they can see that the gap is starting to open up between themselves and FIA Lombardo. They do not want that to happen. Remember, this is a one-off race. It's all about winning it, and you know, to be that International Super Cup winner, you've got to be fighting to get to the front, and right now these drivers just holding position for the time being as Spagni under investigation for potentially causing a collision. That was that previous overtake on Christian Haublin over at turn 13.
I think our team in race control will be incredibly busy throughout these finals, because again and again we're just seeing those under investigation notifications going out to these drivers who in this race, you know, it's all or nothing. They want to come home with a race win. It's not about finishing second or third, it's about snatching that trophy that we saw 30 minutes ago stood on that track. Is about coming home with an International Super Cup win. Up the hill, these drivers will try and go once more. This is the nice little battle going on shortly behind FIA and Lombardo, who now are seemingly starting to push away as a duo out there in the front.
No, drama! It's Piccioni and Spagni off the circuit. Drama at turn number 5, and the European winner back in Sano is out of this International Super Cup, and the two Italians tumble down the order to 30th and 31st, and their 2025 hopes is over. But that's opened up that top 10 now. It's brought in Alessia Lamattina, it's brought in Sylvian Valet as well. They're now inside that top 10. But we're now at that midway point of the race here, Nicole, and Gazzaglio's starting to go for the moves here. He's tried to get the move down the inside of Ricardo Nallon, has not managed to get it done. That's a first attempt there for the Birolart driver, who you can see at turn 1 they're watching, and also on the banking. The support for the Italian driver here is very, very large. But right now, he is unable to get that charge done on Nallon, with the two at the front really starting to stretch away now.
Yeah, it doesn't put him off too much. He's still right on the back bumper, but that has released Abbas out there in P3. So that half move by Gazzaglio didn't work for the overtake, but it did work in the favour of Abbas there. Now then, this duo ever inching closer and closer to each other. The gap now less than 2/10 between Lombardo and FIA. Up the hill they'll go once more. The Maranello not letting off. The pace between those two drivers, both in those 45.9s, split up just by hundredths of tenths. These drivers battling with themselves. This is a long, long race, 24 laps, 31.2 kilometres. They're handling, not only trying to maintain their fitness through this one, they're also having to battle with the drivers behind, battle with the 25 gear changes that go on around this circuit, the 15 corners, the 1.3 kilometre circuit. This is an absolute test of the best, and you've got two of those right at the front. Lombardo and FIA, that gap goes up once more. It's now just over 2/10. Similar to the gap between these two drivers of Abbas and Nallon. Nallon has now really caught on to the back of Abbas there, trying to get into that last spot inside of the top 3, and on that previous lap helped himself massively because he was a 1/10.5 faster. That's why you're seeing that gap just start to evaporate now, and this is going to get feisty very soon. Into turn number 14 they go, and still Nallon closing it in inch on those brakes.
So far, so good here in KZ2 Masters for the front runners. Everyone still line astern, keeping an eye on those sector times here as Abbas under immense pressure here now from Ricardo Nallon, who still just doesn't find him on the brakes here down in towards turn number 5. And again, every time he just hesitates just that little bit, Gazzaglio there just behind also wants to get involved. This is that fight now heading down in towards turn 5 as well. Big overtake still happening here. Big sends down the inside as well. That is nicely done for Kagato. Henderson through as well. And this is all fighting for 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th at the moment out on track. But we'll keep a close eye on that one. Still, your top 2. Lombardo, Fore crossing the line. This is 3rd. Abbas, Nallon, Casaglio, Medeghini still there from Halgaard. Halblin still there in 8th place from Lamattina, and Valet holding on to the top 10 here. Rosario is your biggest, well, one of the biggest movers up in the top 15, and he 11 places gained. Souza on a 13 place gain currently inside that top 20. There is the stance of the driver from Switzerland. Started this race in 33rd place, currently in P20. It's an incredible charge in this final, but like you say, it all falls down to that top running spot, which now, Nicole, sees a staggering 6 investigation boards out over the course of this race.
Absolutely. We said this race, this final, it's all or nothing for these drivers. Penalties mean nothing in the end of it. It's not heats. It's not going to affect them. There's no points to be gained. It's only trophies at the end of it. And it could be trophies then for these 2 drivers who are still going at it for that #1 spot. But Lombardo is not falling into the hands of Fore yet. It's not the experienced hands of Davide that has reduced that gap at all. It's 3/10 still that split them up. Again, another investigation goes out. This time it's to Mazzoni. Mazzoni further down in the order, just outside the top 10 behind Yaron Boss. So he is being looked at maybe causing a collision, and there are those trophies. Look, they're just stunning, and I know every single one of these drivers on there will be wanting to take those home. But for now, we're getting into the later stages of this race as we'll watch a replay for the time being. So this is into turn number 14. Nice little textbook move down the inside on the brakes. Clean as you like.
Simonetti back on the charge there.
Yeah, Lombardo then still continues to turn up this dial. And now, like we've seen from him in the heats, when it comes to the later stages of this race, he really does, you know, get better and better. You'd think with how tired these drivers are, with how long of a weekend this has been, with how long of a race this is, maybe they'd start to fall back a little bit. But for Lombardo, no, continues to go fastest.
Yeah, he certainly does, really keeping up that pace. And you can see all the support still coming from the sidelines to say, keep pushing, keep going throughout this race. And they certainly are doing so. But still, it is holding firm inside those top 5 for the time being. You've really got to think about their temps in the tyres and how they've looked after them over the course of this one. Yes, okay, they've had the 1.5 sets that they've babysitted over the course of a long weekend here, Nicole. But this race here, you've got a brand new set. It's so easy to overuse these LeConte tyres very early on. You want to keep them in a nice operating window. Of course, we know in the direct drive classes, tyre temperatures can reach well in and above 110 degrees Celsius out there. When you throw in even faster cuts and much higher speeds and a much grippier circuit, you may find those temps can go up even higher than that. But you don't want it to be that high. You want to keep them at a nice operating window at around about, I would say, about 90 to 100 degrees. You don't want to excel any more than that.
It's most likely the case of why we saw Lombardo and Fore in the early stages of this race, you know, be as close as they actually were, because Lombardo was just thinking about preserving that tread on the tyre in the early stages so that he can then do what we're seeing from him now, which is bolt away from the remainder of the field. Nice little battle going on further in the background. One of the drivers just getting slightly caught out, though, on the back bumper. These drivers, of course, have a nose cone bolted to them, so they've got to be careful that they don't get into that domino effect and end up with a penalty at the end of it if they're high up the order. Still, though, high up in the order, we've still got Abbas, Nallon and Cosaglio battling out for what looks like the last remaining spots inside the top 3.
Here we go. I think he's been saving this to the very last lap. Davide Fore, fastest lap of the race now, 45.745. Closing that gap up now to Angelo Lombardo, and this is what these drivers do. They have that, you know, that quiet phase. They look after those tyres. Now when it gets these last couple of laps, now it's time. Right, let's close this gap. Let's use the tyre that we've got underneath us. Let's use the engine that we've got beside us and let's push it forward. Here is the replay of this start. Watch the reaction times. Beautiful start from Lombardo there. Just able to power it off the line, utilizing the traction on those LeConte tyres to break himself away. But eyes on this one, still down to 0.3 of a second as they're pushing all the way to the limits. And remember, Davide Forte is an expert of going all the way to the limits and off those limits at that very turn. But he's squared it away now. And the gap has opened up that little bit now over these last few stages. I think he's tried to push, but in doing so, he's allowed Lombardo also to go, right, okay, anything you can do, I can do better. The battle for third, though, still on. Riccardo Nallon, so tantalizingly close to that last spot of the podium. Yes, okay, it's not the main #1 spot, but you still come away with an absolutely immense trophy. In the fight here, as that's still fighting in the background, this is, I think, still the Club Cali card. Further down the order, Valdo Bazzario and Daniel Bray fighting. It is Daniel Bray from New Zealand just stepping it up now. He's on an immense charge through the field here as he tries to gain those places. But for the front runners here, Angelo Lombardo is just doing what he can here, as I think they're still fighting in the background. They're all the way throughout. Blazario here, all over the rear bumper of everyone, and I think that's now the likes of Julian Guenon who's made his way through onto that order. Last lap board is out now for the KZ2 Masters. 1,300 meters remains for these two pilots here, Angelo Lombardo and Davide Forte at the front of the grid. This all falls down to these last two corners, but right now the gap is still at 0.4 of a second. Davide Forte has done everything he can. The 2023 winner of the International Super Cup will have to give way to a new title winner in 2025. Angelo Lombardo of Italy will round the final corner. Maranello and Italia, P1 in KZ2 Masters. Angelo Lombardo has done it. The International Super Cup winner in 2025 in KZ2 Masters. He's done it. He joins Anthony Abbas, he joins Davide Forte, he joins the Frenchman as well of Thomas Latour as well back in 2022. But Angelo Lombardo has done it. A superb weekend, a lockout for him. Great run in qualifying, great run in the qualifying heats. He won the superheat and he wins the final now. And he is congratulated, and I'm sure that is a very emotional Italian underneath that helmet. The KZ2 Masters is a gift to drivers from times gone by, and for the field here of drivers 35 years upwards, it's a great show for what they can do. The pickup is underway, and for there, Angelo Lombardo continues at this age to fight at the front to claim those wins. The Italian can celebrate in perfect form here, as those podiums will be very, very soon. And all the meanwhile, these drivers have done an incredible, incredible job to take them to the end. But Angelo Lombardo can secure that International Super Cup title in 2025. Davide Forte and Anthony Abbas, former winners of this very class, will settle for a podium, with Riccardo Nallon finishing in a very close P4. Manuel Cosaglio finishes P5 ahead of Luciano Medeghini. Rasmus Haugaard of Denmark finishes P7 ahead of Alessio Lamattina. Christian Albin from Jorian Boss. Mirko Mizzoni finishes strong as well in that order ahead of Sylvian Valet. Tankevicius from Simonetti. Bray from Julian Guenon. Blazario from Shekachian. Kagato from Souza. Heyer from Henderson. Constantini from Salzman. Leblay from Tonoli. Strangle from Bullhouse.